Rain poured heavily from the sky, as if the heavens themselves were mourning someone's fate. In the dim light of the alley behind a grand 5-star hotel, a man crouched low behind a garbage bin, soaked from head to toe, his expensive suit smeared with dirt and his face hidden beneath a baseball cap. He shivered slightly, not from the cold, but from the absurdity of what had just happened. This wasn't how a CEO was supposed to spend his evening, but for Ethan Chin, the heir of the Chin Corporation, and one of the most powerful men in the city, this was the only way to escape a marriage he never wanted. Ethan had grown up in a world where everything was pre-planned: his education, his company, even his future wife. The engagement with the Liu family's daughter was more of a business deal than a love story. And today, on what should have been the day of his engagement ceremony, he found himself escaping through the back door of the hotel kitchen, running blindly into the rain, desperate to breathe freely for once in his life. Meanwhile, just a few streets away, a young woman named Ella trudged through the rain, clutching a plastic bag filled with leftover bread from the bakery where she worked. Part-time, life had never been easy for Ella. After losing her parents at a young age, she had grown up in a tiny rented room with her grandmother, doing whatever she could to survive, selling snacks, folding clothes in laundry shops, and taking care of her ailing grandmother. But even in the worst of times, Ella never let her smile fade. She believed that one day, something good would finally come her way. Fate, however, had something completely unexpected in store. As Ella passed by the alley, she noticed a figure curled up next to the trash bins. She paused, her heart tightening. The man looked like a beggar, drenched, filthy, and trembling. Something inside her made her step closer, even though her instincts warned her to keep walking. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked softly, leaning down and offering him a piece of bread. Ethan looked up slowly, his face shadowed under the cap. He didn't respond at first. He couldn't believe what was happening. He, the CEO of a billion-dollar empire, was being mistaken for a homeless man. But strangely, it felt peaceful. There was no judgment in the girl's voice, only kindness, and for the first time in years, he felt like someone was seeing him. Not the powerful CEO, not the heir, but just him. "I'm fine," he mumbled, his voice hoarse. "You don't look fine," Ella said, gently placing the bread in his hand. "Come with me. You'll get sick if you stay out here like this." Ethan hesitated. This girl didn't know who he was, and yet she was offering him help without asking for anything in return. He could have refused, but something about her felt genuine, pure even. He nodded slowly, unable to say no. She brought him to her small home, a humble space with old furniture, warm lighting, and the smell of herbal medicine in the air. Her grandmother, though surprised, didn't question much. Ella introduced Ethan as Mr. Q, saying he had no place to go and needed a place to rest for a night or two. That night, Ethan lay awake on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. He had traded luxury for simplicity, silence for sincerity, and oddly, he didn't regret it. The next morning, Ella handed him a dry towel and some clean clothes her late father once wore. "You don't have to tell me your story," she said, with a kind smile. "But if you ever feel like talking, I'll listen." Ethan wanted to speak, to tell her everything, but he couldn't, not yet. For now, he was just Mr. Q, the man with no past and no future, living in a stranger's kindness. Back at the Chin residence, chaos had broken out. The Liu family was furious. The media was buzzing with headlines. Chin Corporation CEO goes missing before engagement. Rumors swirled. Investors panicked, and board members demanded answers. But no one had a clue where Ethan had vanished. No one, except the girl who unknowingly gave shelter to one of the city's most powerful men. Days passed. Ethan helped Ella around the house, fed her grandmother, and even learned how to make dumplings. Every little thing, every smile, every quiet laugh felt more real than any of his board meetings. He found himself watching Ella when she wasn't looking, admiring the strength in her eyes and the softness in her heart. She was nothing like the women he'd met in his world. She didn't wear designer clothes or speak in polished tones, but she had something more valuable. She was honest, and that scared him more than anything, because slowly, he was falling for her. But how long could he keep hiding? How long before the truth came out? What would happen when Ella discovered who he really was? Would she feel betrayed? Would she walk away? And worse, what if someone found him first? One rainy evening, just as the city lights flickered on and Ella returned from work, a black car stopped near the alley. A pair of sharp eyes looked out the tinted window, locking on the familiar figure standing near a flower cart. "Found you," the man muttered with a cold smile, reaching for his phone, and just like that, the peaceful world Ethan had created began to tremble. The black car slowly drove away, leaving behind only the faint sound of its tires on the wet road. Inside the house, Ethan was helping Ella prepare dinner. He rolled up his sleeves, struggling to peel a potato properly, while Ella giggled watching him. "You really are hopeless in the kitchen," she teased. He laughed softly, a sound that had become more natural lately. "I wasn't exactly trained for this," he replied. "Boardrooms don't teach you how to peel vegetables." Ella raised an eyebrow. "Boardrooms?" Ethan froze for a second, realizing his slip. But before he could come up with an excuse, Ella shrugged it off, turning back to stir the pot. "You talk like someone who had a fancy life before all this," she said casually, not expecting an answer. He looked at her for a long moment, debating whether to finally tell her the truth. But the fear in his chest stopped him. What if she looked at him differently? What if she thought he had been lying all along? So he stayed quiet. That night, as Ella put her grandmother to bed and Ethan stepped outside for fresh air, a shadow watched him from across the street. The man from the car, Marcus, Ethan's assistant, had been tracking him for days. He had orders to bring Ethan back no matter what. The company was falling into chaos without its CEO, but Marcus hesitated. He had never seen Ethan like this. Calm, smiling, living simply. Could he really drag him back to a world he clearly didn't want to return to? Back at the Chin Corporation headquarters, things were boiling over. Ethan's older cousin, Vincent Chin, who had always been jealous of Ethan's position, used the disappearance to his advantage. With Ethan gone, Vincent stepped in as acting CEO, making bold decisions, cutting deals, and winning over board members. But his true plan was darker. He intended to take over the company permanently and eliminate Ethan's place for good. Meanwhile, the Liu family wasn't staying quiet either. Humiliated by the cancelled engagement, they were pressuring the Chin family for answers. Rumors began to spread online. Chin CEO caught in scandal. Secret relationship with a poor girl. Images of a blurry figure matching Ethan's. Descriptions started circulating, taken by someone who had seen him near Ella's neighborhood. The internet was buzzing, and the truth was getting dangerously close. Ella had no idea about the storm outside her little world. She had begun to grow attached to Ethan. There was something about his quiet nature, the sadness in his eyes, and the way he always looked at her like she mattered. She didn't know who he really was, but she felt it in her heart. This man was different. One evening, while she was folding laundry, she found a folded paper in Ethan's coat pocket. It was damp, half torn, but she could still read it. Kin Corporation, CEO Ethan Chin, engagement ceremony invitation. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the name. Ethan Chin, CEO. Engagement? Suddenly, everything made sense. The slip-ups, his words, the way he reacted to news reports. He wasn't a beggar. He wasn't some drifter. He was the man on every headline for the past few weeks. When Ethan returned from buying groceries, he saw Ella sitting quietly on the sofa, the invitation in her hand. "You lied to me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't lie," Ethan said slowly, pain in his eyes. "I just didn't tell you the whole truth." Ella stood up, her heart pounding. "You let me believe you were someone else. Why? Do you think I wouldn't help you if I knew who you were?" "No, it's not that," he said quickly. I wanted to be someone real. Not the CEO, not the heir, just a man." Tears welled up in her eyes. "And what about that engagement? Was it true? Are you running away from a woman you're supposed to marry?" Ethan didn't answer. Right away, he looked down, ashamed. "It was arranged. I didn't love her. I never even knew her. My whole life has been one contract after another. That day, I just wanted out. And then I met you." Ella backed away, confused and hurt. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Suddenly, the door burst open. Marcus entered, slightly out of breath. "Sir, you need to come with me. Now, Vincent has declared himself CEO. He's about to sell the company's most valuable assets to foreign investors. If we don't stop him, everything your father built will be gone." Ethan clenched his fists. "He's really doing it." "You were gone too long," Marcus said. "He took advantage of it, and if you don't step up now, he wins." Ella watched silently as Ethan's world came crashing back. The man she thought was simple and broken was actually carrying the weight of an empire. "I have to go," Ethan said, turning to her. "But I'll come back. I promise." Ella didn't say anything. Her heart was torn. She didn't know if she could believe that promise. As Ethan drove off with Marcus, his mind raced. The peaceful days were over. It was time to face everything he had run from. And in the shadows, Vincent Chin made his final move, unaware that the man he thought he had defeated was coming back. The city lights shimmered as Ethan's car raced through the highway, each second ticking away like a countdown. He stared out the window in silence, his heart pounding, not just from the thought of confronting Vincent, but from leaving Ella behind without knowing if she'd ever forgive him. The peaceful days at her little house had changed him in ways he couldn't explain. For the first time in his life, he had felt like a real person, not just a title, and now all of that felt like it was slipping through his fingers. At Chin Corporation headquarters, Vincent stood in the boardroom, confidently, presenting the final deal to sell off a major part of the company to foreign investors. The board was divided, unsure but pressured by Vincent's bold tactics and charm. Just as the final vote was about to be cast, the doors slammed open. Ethan walked in. Every eye turned toward him. Whispers filled the room. "He's back. That's Ethan Chin." "Isn't he missing?" Vincent's smile faltered for a second, but he quickly regained his composure. "Ethan," he said smoothly, "didn't expect to see you. I thought you had given up everything." Ethan stepped forward, shoulders firm. "I never gave up. I just took a breath to remember who I really am. And now I'm here to do what's right." The room grew tense as Ethan pulled out documents, proof of Vincent's manipulations, forged reports, and secret meetings. Marcus handed over more files, each one exposing layers of deceit. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Everything Vincent had built in the past weeks began to crack. Vincent lost control. "You think you can just walk back in and fix everything?" he snapped. "You were weak. You ran." "I didn't run," Ethan replied calmly. "I found something more valuable than money or power. I found a reason to fight. For this company, for my family's legacy, and for the people who believed in me." With overwhelming support, the board voted. Vincent was removed from all positions. Security escorted him out, shouting and threatening lawsuits. But Ethan didn't look back. It was over. Or so he thought. Back at Ella's home, she sat by the window, her thoughts spinning. The man she had helped had turned out to be a billionaire CEO. She kept wondering, was any of it real? Did he truly care? Or was it all just a break from his reality? She didn't want to believe it had all been a lie, but her heart was guarded now. That evening, a sleek black car stopped outside her house. Ethan stepped out, holding a small paper bag and a nervous look on his face. He knocked softly. Ella opened the door, surprised but silent. "I brought your favorite dumplings," he said, holding up the bag. She didn't laugh. "Why are you here?" "I told you I'd come back," he said quietly. "Everything's done. I took back the company. The truth's out. But none of it matters if I don't have the one person who saw me before the world did." Ella's eyes welled up. "You left without saying anything." "I was scared," he admitted. "Not of Vincent, not of the company, but of losing. What I found with you, I thought I had to fix everything before I could deserve you." She looked down, unsure. "I don't know if I can trust you again." Ethan took her hand gently. "Then let me earn it. Not with money, not with big promises. Just one day at a time, like we used to." Ella studied his face. He looked tired, honest, real. Not the CEO in headlines, but the man who burnt toast, trying to make her breakfast. The man who sat by her grandmother's bed and told her stories. She finally smiled. "Okay, but you're still peeling the potatoes," he chuckled, relief washing over him. "Deal." In the following weeks, Ethan balanced boardrooms with village markets. He returned to work with a clearer vision, focusing on people, not just profit. He started initiatives to support struggling communities like Ella's, and even launched a foundation under her grandmother's name. Ella didn't move into a mansion. Ethan spent more time in her world than she did in his. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was real, full of laughter, silly fights, burnt meals, and long talks under the stars. The story that began with a CEO hiding in trash to escape an arranged marriage became one of growth, trust, and love, found in the most unexpected places. It wasn't just a love story. It was about two people discovering who they truly were, beyond status and struggle, and in the end, that was the most valuable thing either of them had ever owned.